Good evening, everybody. It is 6 p.m. on this September 16th evening. Thank you all for coming. We will start with standing and saying the Pledge of Allegiance, led by Councilmember Armendariz. Ready to begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You can be seated. Rabbi Debbie is ill today. She was going to be doing the invocation. Item 1.4 is City Clerk's report on posting the agenda, followed by roll call.
Thank you very much. The agenda was posted on Friday, September 13th, 2024 at 11 a.m. Councilmember Bracco.
Here.
Councilmember Armendariz.
Here.
Councilmember Marks.
Here.
Councilmember Hilton. Councilmember Klein.
Here.
Councilmember Tovar.
Here.
Mayor Blankley.
Here. All right, under orders of the day, we have none. Under employee introductions, we have two from Police Chief Espinoza, and then followed by one, right, Heath, you're going to do one after. Okay.
Madam Mayor, members of council, members of the community, good evening. Very happy to introduce our two newest police officers. They graduated the Police Academy on Friday, and I got a chance to see that and meet their families. So their actual first day at work is today. So first, I'm going to introduce Mark Bedoya. Mark began his service in 2014 as a member of the Marine Corps Security Forces team member. He trained to reinforce U.S. embassies during crisis. In 2016, he was moved to an infantry unit as a team leader, and later, towards the end of his career, became a squad leader. He ended his Marine Corps as a sergeant and honorably discharged in 2022. Worked a different security detail in the Los Angeles area, including as a personal executive protection agent for Forbes-listed billionaire. He received his Associate of Science in Audio Production and then his bachelor's degree in Entertainment Business at the Los Angeles Film School. His mom and two little sisters are members of his family and loves him dearly and has a daughter on the way. His hobbies include music, enjoys producing, recording music, and physical fitness, and has become an NASM accredited certified personal trainer. Please help me welcome Mark Bedoya.
Hello, good evening. Mark Bedoya, one of the two new sworn members of Gilroy PD. I'm very grateful to have you, for you to have me. Sorry. But yeah, I'm very grateful to be here. I plan to do the best that I can possibly can, to do the most good that I possibly can with the time that I'm here, which I hope is a long time, and I plan for that to be that way. That's all I have. Please come up to me and speak with me if you'd like. And yeah, have a good night. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome.
Next up, we have Jaylene Fernandez. Prior to joining law enforcement, she worked at the Mid-Bay Ford dealership as a saleswoman and then became a stay-at-home mom while going to school for her degree in psychology. Graduated from Cabrillo College in 2023 with an AA in psychology and liberal arts. Her passion and main focus was psychology with an emphasis in mental health issues. She has two daughters that are very supportive of her. She is the oldest of her siblings and hopes to be a good role model for them and her children. One of her biggest accomplishments was watching her daughters' faces when she was pinned her badge on Friday. Her hobbies include spending time with her daughters, going on hikes, going to the gym, snowboarding, enjoys drawing, and hopes to travel more in the future. Please help me welcome Jaylene Fernandez.
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. Thank you for having me today. I'm really excited to be working for such a supportive department. Gilroy PD has done a lot to help me get here, and I'm very appreciative of that. I hope that I'm able to give back to the community that's given back to me so much, so I'm hoping to leave a long-lasting impact. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Heath.
All right, good evening. Madam Mayor, members of the City Council, members of the community, good to see you tonight. I'm pleased to introduce our new Senior Civil Engineer for the Utilities Department, Mr. Brett Swain. Brett's a California licensed professional engineer joining the city of Gilroy with over 25 years of combined private and public experience, most recently at the city of Manteca and town of Moraga. He received a bachelor's degree from Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, his master's from Fresno State in civil engineering, and an MBA from UC Davis. And so Brett's primary responsibility will be leading the capital improvement program efforts for the utility department. And in his free time, Brett enjoys improving his house and traveling with his wife. So please join me in welcoming Brett Swain.
Thank you. I'll keep this brief. I just want to express how much I appreciate the opportunity to serve the community of Gilroy, and thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you for joining the team. All right. Under item 2, we have ceremonial items. There is one proclamation that the week of September 17th through the 23rd as Constitution Week, but no one is here to accept the proclamation, so everyone can see it in the packet. Under council correspondence, we have an informational item listed. That brings us to item 4, public comment by members of the public on items not on the agenda. And do we have 2? Okay. So, Beth, you want to go ahead and call them up? You each have 3 minutes at this podium in the center.
Nashaba Afzal and Robert Zepeda, and you'll each have 3 minutes.
Good evening. In February, March of this year, Mayor Blankley, council members Tovar, Klein, Bracco, Marquez all voted against a proclamation that was brought forth by dozens of Gilroy residents who had their family members killed in an ongoing genocide. We stood beside those families advocating for the killings of innocent civilians to stop, especially since the portion of Gilroy's taxpayer funds to that country, just in 2023 alone, was $2.8 million that could have been used locally through federal grants. Council members, the 5 of you, and the mayor, respectfully, you voted no against that proclamation to support those Gilroy families who pleaded for your support. We heard statements that we were not elected to focus on topics outside of Gilroy. We heard statements that we were not voted to pass proclamations on topics outside of Gilroy. All those statements are recorded as public record in the city's website for review. At this time, only council members, Zach and Rebecca, acknowledge the fact that Gilroy residents collectively, over 300 of them, had family members and friends killed and continuing to be killed. They were directly impacted, as many other families were impacted when you passed proclamations for those families and support. Truly heartbreaking how we are picking and choosing which proclamations to pass. Since that meeting, hundreds more members of Gilroy residents are being killed. It's still continuing. We want to remind each of those 5 council members who voted no on that proclamation. At this time, we want you to reflect on your integrity as you look at any new agenda items that ask for proclamations. And we ask you to sincerely ask yourself, does the topic of this new proclamation relate to what I was elected to do here in Gilroy? Or is it out of my jurisdiction, out of my role and my responsibility of what I was elected to do to serve locally? Or are we going to see once again a display of valuing certain residents' concerns over others, and we make exceptions for certain residents with double standards as recorded for public record to entertain possible conspiracy theories or other proclamations that really have no merit on what you were elected to do for your Gilroy City residents? Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Good evening. I wanted to bring up, not just in my neighborhood, but in other neighborhoods, I've noticed that the city has subcontracted landscapers to cut down trees, which is great because their roots were getting all over and messing up the streets and sidewalks, etc. But I noticed that the job was not complete. The roots were still left. The sidewalks weren't fixed. As a matter of fact, my dad, the homeowner where I live, we had to fix the sidewalk ourselves. We had to hire someone to do it, and we were rooting out all the roots, which is a lot of work, especially if it's by hand. And so I'm not sure why the city didn't contract someone else to fix that, because I don't see why a job would be half done. That's like making a burger but not putting the meat in. Anyway, my point of all that was, we pay taxes for services, but why would that be the purpose if it's not completed? And I know that Wednesday we're going to have that tax measure regarding police and firefighters, which I don't disagree with. However, Mayor, you once said that 99% of tax dollars doesn't even stay locally. It goes to the state or federal, whatever, I don't know. As a constituent and a citizen in the United States, I don't even know where my tax dollars go to. That's quite concerning. That said, I don't know why you as locally elected officials can't go to the county or go to the state and say, hey, you know what? We want our money back. After all, that doesn't make any sense to, have to beg someone for your money back. It does not. I don't see why it's not reversed. Why we don't keep 99% of our tax dollars and 1% goes to the state. After all, they do have a $1 billion deficit. I don't know how, but that's just, obviously they're spending it on other things. And it's quite frustrating why, even as I look, in the state of California, just in this year alone, in 2024, in November, there's going to be over 400 tax hikes, whether it's county or city, all over the state. So, I look at that and say, wait, so it doesn't matter even if I approve this tax measure that's going to be local, if I go to another county or another city, it's going to increase my taxes, or my taxes are going to be increased. Doesn't make any sense. Why am I paying for it? I shouldn't be. Neither should anyone else. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I see no other speakers. Are there any? Okay, thank you. All right, that brings us to item 5, which is reports of council members. Councilmember Bracco. Councilmember Armendariz.
Thank you, Mayor. I served as an alternate for Councilmember Hilton at the Silicon Valley Clean Energy meeting. During the meeting, we discussed the evaluation of the new executive director, which was flying colors for her and the work that she's been doing. It felt like a very seamless transition from the old director to the new one. And then we were also presented with the new website where every city in our county has their REACH codes posted for the ease of people who want to compare them, and also for builders who want to comply with them. And I'd also like to wish a happy Independence Day to the countries of Mexico, El Salvador, Nicaragua, and Honduras, who celebrate the 15th and the 16th as their Independence Days. Thank you.
All right, Councilmember Marks.
Just one brief mention for the Downtown Committee. Our last store downtown had their plywood removed a couple of weeks ago, so our downtown is plywood free. Thank you.
Councilmember Hilton is absent. Councilmember Klein.
No report.
Councilmember Tovar.
No report.
Okay, on mine, the only meeting I've had since our last meeting was VTA Mobility Partnership, and this is kind of fun. I mean, aside from the fact that VTA shared their outreach program for the 10125 interchange that's going to be starting for the end of this year, they're doing everything they can to make sure people are prepared. As soon as you start seeing that construction, there will be some who will say, what is this all about? But Part 2 is extending Santa Teresa Boulevard across Castro Valley Road. And in this $198 million grant competition for the Trade Corridor Enhancement Program through SB1, our Santa Teresa extension scored. So $30 million is going to Alameda County, $33 million is up in Redwood City, $60 million is the 680 Highway 4 interchange, And then MTC applied for $73 million, and then we got $2 million to start that. I just think it's great that in the middle of all those big guys, we got $2 million to get started on that extension, because that's going to be big. 10125 is not complete until Santa Teresa Boulevard connects to it. So that's my report. Okay, that brings us to the consent calendar. There's only one item on there, so I'll ask for public comment first. None. Okay, no public comment. Is there a motion to approve?
Second.
Okay, moved by Councilmember Tovar and seconded by Councilmember Armendariz to approve the consent calendar.
Councilmember Bracco? Yes. Councilmember Armendariz?
Yes.
Councilmember Marks?
Yes.
Councilmember Klein?
Yes.
Councilmember Tovar?
Yes.
Mayor Blankley?
Yes. All right, that passes unanimously with one absent. All right, 7.1, bids and proposals. Approve a cost-sharing agreement with the City of Morgan Hill in the amount of $1,814,455 to award a contract to hydroscience engineers in the amount of $673,348. Approve a project contingency in the amount of $67,336 and adopt a resolution of budget amendment to increase fiscal year 24-25 budget by $3,628,910 for the joint Morgan Hill Gilroy trunk line repairs project. Go ahead, Heba.
Thank you. Honorable Mayor and Council members, good evening. This agenda item, as it shows from the title, is covering two elements. One of them is the cost-sharing agreement between the City of Gilroy and the City of Morgan Hill with regards to the trunk pipeline. And the second element is the contract for the design of the project with hydroscience engineers. To offer some background information, the City of Gilroy and the City of Morgan Hill have a joint maintenance responsibility for the sewer trunk pipeline that extends from Morgan Hill through Gilroy all the way to the wastewater treatment. That's about 11.7 miles. A condition of assessment of the joint pipeline was carried out in 2021, which concluded a number of immediate improvements needed, including the repair of 5 sanitary sewer pipeline segments, the spray coating of approximately 4.7 miles of pipeline, and the repair of 40 manholes. The cost sharing between the cities of Gilroy and Morgan Hill is shared 50-50. And that's covering all elements of the project: design, construction, and construction management. The trunk line repairs project is included in the council-approved 5-year CIP program. The funding actually allocated under this project number in fiscal year 24 slightly exceeds what we currently need for the design. This slide and the next slide cover some of the main findings of the assessment. The blue dots show the cast-in-place liner needed at the manholes, while the red one is a buried manhole that needs to be raised. The segment shown here in blue that needs spray coating. Actually, there is a significant number of segments that need spray coating, as shown here for the rest of the length of the pipeline, in addition to segments that needs to be cast in place pipe lining. And this segments here needs to be replaced. The estimated cost sharing between the City of Morgan Hill and the City of Gilroy is about $370,000 for the design for each of the cities, for a total of $740,684. That's including $201,000 of optional tasks, as well as 10% contingency. The construction management and the construction are estimated to be to cost about $376,000 and about $2,511,000. The total for all three phases is $3,628,910. As I mentioned, actually, what was budgeted in fiscal year 24 is slightly higher. Back in January of this year, RFP was issued to 8 pre-qualified consultants. Only one proposal was received in February, and based on evaluation by members, external member from Health International, as well as City of Gilroy staff, and also shared with the City of Morgan Hill, it was determined that hydroscience engineers is qualified to perform the work, and staff negotiated the budget and the scope with the consultant. The funding for this project, for the design, construction, and construction management, was budgeted in fiscal year 24, as I mentioned, but it was not encumbered at the time. The budget amendments for fiscal year 25 is needed to appropriate the new estimate of $3,628,910 from Sewer Fund 700 in order to fund all phases of the project, with appropriation of $1,814,455 as reimbursement from the City of Morgan Hill. For the project design, the consultant's fee is $673,348, in addition to 10% contingency for a total project cost for the design phase of $740,684, as I mentioned, funded by Sewer Fund 700. With that, we will reach the recommendations, which include 3 items. First, to approve the cost-sharing agreement between the City of Gilroy and the City of Morgan Hill in the amount of $1,814,455 for the design, construction, and construction management of the joint Morgan Hill Gilroy trunk line repairs project, and authorize our city administrator to execute the agreement and associated documents. The second item is to award the design contract to hydroscience engineers in the amount of $600,348 plus the contingency for a total of $740,684, and authorize the city administrator to execute the contract, associated documents, and any use of the contingency funding. The third recommendation is to adopt a resolution of the City Council, of the Gilroy City Council, amending fiscal year 25 budget and appropriating $3,628,910 from the Sewer Fund 700 for the joint trunk line repairs project, and appropriate $1,814,455 as reimbursement revenue from the City of Morgan Hill. Next steps, subject to council approval tonight, staff will proceed to authorize Hydroscience to proceed with the work. And the design is expected to be completed by early 2026, after which time the construction could commence, and the construction phase is also estimated to take about a year. With that, I will conclude my presentation and will be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Heba. Councilmember Bracco.
Yes. In years past, whenever there was an issue with the trunk line north of our city limits, that was 100% Morgan Hill's cost. So why are we sharing it?
The previous agreement, it had a breakdown all along the pipeline corridor, I would call it, and it's segmented. It's broken down based on the location, payment almost full by Morgan Hill, and then it goes down as it progresses to our plant.
But here it says 50-50.
Yes, based on the calculation of the overall cost and based on the coordination with the city of Morgan Hill, we simplified the process by sharing it 50-50 in the new agreement.
That doesn't sound like a simplified agreement. It sounds like Gilroy's getting shafted having to fix pipeline that has nothing to do with the city of Gilroy.
Councilmember Bracco, the pipeline that goes approximately 11.2 miles from Morgan Hill to the straw plant, you can really say half of it is Morgan Hill and half of it is Gilroy because the pipe comes through Gilroy, which is a much larger city. It's part of that segment. So the actual pipe fixing is about 50-50. The cost, therefore, 50-50.
But not, Gilroy starts at about Day Road is where our city limits is.
Right. We have to compensate for the unincorporated area, so we share that part as well. And so it ends up being about 50-50 of how much pipe they pay for and how much we pay for.
Because we've never done that before, so.
Yeah, just a little bit. So just to add just a little bit to that, Councilmember Bracco, so the part north, I mean, you're correct. The percentage does go. It starts 100% Morgan Hill, and as it comes down, Gilroy starts taking on more. The old agreement, when it was set up, originally the thought was that Gilroy was going to expand up higher, all the way up to the edge of Morgan Hill. So those old agreements, we actually start taking on a larger cost share all the way up, even though we only have a pretty minor contribution. So that is something that we need to look at long term to see if we redo those agreements. Now that my understanding was, I wasn't here, perhaps many more of the council members would know, but at one time the thought was when these pipelines were being put in was that Gilroy would expand all the way up to, I think it's California Avenue or a little bit past that. And so then we wanted to reserve that capacity as the city of Gilroy. So then we have in those old agreements that we have a large percentage of the share of that line maintenance currently. But then when the voters came in and said, my understanding was that votes came in and they said, hey, Gilroy, we're not going to expand to a much lower spot. Then, so right now we're technically, you could say we're paying a little larger share for that part. But however, the engineer that was working under Public Works did go back and looked at the complete calculations for everything, and we looked at the different segments and said, okay, maybe we're 70% here, we're 50% here, we're 40%. And by the time we calculated it out, she spent quite a few hours doing it. It wound up actually being really close. As the city administrator said, it was like, 50.5%, 49, and then you could start arguing, okay, well, where's the design for the manhole start and end? And so it made sense. It calculated out to just go 50-50 and keep that as a fair representation for both parties.
Seeing no other council members, I'm going to say that when I saw the screen and everything was labeled MH, I thought, oh, well, Morgan Hill's covering all those things, but it's manhole, not Morgan Hill. It is interesting, though, because everything else with SCRAW is more like 60-40, just based on populations, right? Everything else, SCRAW is our sewer treatment plant, for those of you who don't know that acronym. 3 of us up here sit on that board. And we share the cost of everything related to that sewer treatment plant in a basically 60-40 split. So why is this any different?
That's the calculation for the pipeline, and STRA actually collects from other areas, including areas under the county's jurisdiction.
Okay. I mean, it's better for us to be 50-50 and not 60-40. I'm just saying that everything else is 60-40. So I'm not complaining about it. I just was asking the question. Okay. I don't see it. Again, no other council members, so I'll go to public comment.
No public comment.
Okay, no public comment. So council, we need 3 different motions, correct, for this?
So moved.
Yes, we should have.
Okay, so,
We should do.
so the first one would be to approve the cost-sharing agreement. And that's made by Councilmember Armendariz.
I'll
and
second that.
Seconded by Councilmember Tovar. We'll take a vote on that.
Councilmember Bracco? No. Councilmember Armendariz?
Yes.
Councilmember Marks?
Yes.
Councilmember Klein?
Yes.
Councilmember Tovar?
Yes.
Mayor Blankley?
Yes. Okay, so that passes unanimously, but with one absent. We need,
No,
I'm
there's
sorry.
one no.
Oh, Mr. Bracco voted no and one absent. Okay, sorry. Another motion, please,
Sure.
to award the contract to Hydroscience Engineer.
So moved.
Second?
Okay, moved by Councilmember Armendariz and seconded by Councilmember Tovar.
Councilmember Bracco?
No.
Councilmember Armendariz?
Yes.
Councilmember Marks?
Yes.
Councilmember Klein?
Yes.
Councilmember Tovar?
Yes.
Mayor Blankley?
Yes. Okay, 5 yeses, 1 no, 1 absent. Next, okay, motion by Councilmember Klein.
Second.
Seconded by Councilmember Marks to adopt a resolution of the City Council of the City of Gilroy amending the budget.
Councilmember Bracco? No. Councilmember Armendariz?
Yes.
Councilmember Marks?
Yes.
Councilmember Klein?
Yes.
Councilmember Tovar?
Yes.
Mayor Blankley?
Yes. Okay, so again, passed by 5, 1 no, 1 absent. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, unfinished business. Well, public hearings, we have none. Unfinished business is 9.1. Adoption of an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Gilroy adjusting future mayor and city council member salaries. And this,
Madam Mayor, members of City Council, at your September 9th City Council meeting, the council voted to waive future readings, conduct a public hearing, and introduce an attached ordinance to adjust future mayor and city council member salaries. This second meeting is for the ordinance to go into adoption. I'd be happy to answer any questions. That concludes my report.
okay. Any public comment on this item? No public comment. Do I have a motion
So
to?
moved.
Who was it? Okay.
And second.
Okay, Councilmember Armendariz made the motion, seconded by Councilmember Bracco to approve ordinance.
Councilmember Bracco? Yes. Councilmember Armendariz?
Yes.
Councilmember Marks?
Yes.
Councilmember Klein?
Yes.
Councilmember Tovar?
No.
Mayor Blankley?
Yes, okay, passes by 5, 1 no, 1 absent. Okay, item 10, introduction of new business. A resolution of the City Council of the City of Gilroy to release unclaimed checks. And I know these total $303.15. We're not talking a lot of money here. Let everybody know. All right, Harjot, take it away.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council, and the public. Harjot Sangha. I'll present the item before you. Typically, this is the item you would find on a consent calendar, but when we did this process last year, we received some feedback, so we're just bringing this item to get some direction. So the Finance Department, as part of its annual work plan, monitors the outstanding check register for stale-dated checks. We then go ahead and reach out to the vendors or the payees to notify them. And the majority of those checks are claimed through this notification process. Any remaining unclaimed checks that are over 3 years are then released to the city's general fund as allowed by California Government Code. And the City of Gilroy has undertaken this process for many years. So for this year, we had a total of 8 checks that totaled a little over $3,000. 4 of them were claimed, roughly about $3,000, and then there are 4 remaining that are unclaimed, totaling $303.15, and that is the resolution before you. And one of the feedbacks or directions we got from the council last time was to explore, can, in lieu of escheating or releasing these checks to the city's general fund, can we remit and transfer these to the state controller's office, because they do have an unclaimed property division. So we have looked into that. Yes, the cities can go ahead and escheat that. Local agencies have an exemption under the chapter that if the legislative body wishes to release these checks to its own general fund, they can do so. The other alternative, again, is sending it over to the state controller's office. So that is the alternative. Staff's recommendation is to just continue with the city's existing process, especially given the small amount and the low number of checks and our high success rate in making sure that each vendor and payee is getting it. So therefore, we're recommending that you adopt the resolution to release the unclaimed checks to the city's general fund, according with the California Government Code, Section 50053. And that concludes my report. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Harjot. Okay, I don't see any questions on the board. Does any council member have a question? All right, public comment? No public comment. Then looking for a motion. Okay, motion made by Council Member Bracco.
I'll second.
Seconded by Council Member Marks to release the unclaimed checks.
Yep.
For 300. I don't have the wording here in my agenda. Yes, to release the unclaimed checks to the city's general fund in accordance with California Government Code Section 50053.
Thank you.
Do you have it? Okay.
Councilmember Bracco?
Yes.
Councilmember Armendariz?
Yes.
Councilmember Marks?
Yes.
Councilmember Klein?
Yes.
Councilmember Tovar?
Yes.
Mayor Blankley?
Yes. Okay, and that passes, right? That was all of us except for the one absent. All right, 10.2 is consideration of a park naming application to reestablish the Gilroy Golf Course facility as Owsley Park. Bryce, you're going to give us this report?
Yes, Mayor. Good evening, Mayor and Council. The city received a question on June 3rd, 2024 from Barbara Armenta, descendant of Mary Owsley, regarding the absence of the name of Owsley Park from the golf course sign when it was recently installed. Discussions and research into that history indicate that the area was used as a golf course, initially as a lease by Mary Owsley to a golf and country club beginning back in 1922. As part of her will, enacted at her passing and effectuated in 1938, Mary Owsley donated the area to the city with a few conditions: that the city could only use the land for a park or golf course, and the property had to carry the name of Owsley Park. In 1970, her descendant Josephine Hoey executed a quitclaim deed for the area, which removed those conditions. Given the quitclaim deed, but the family's desire to reestablish the name as Owsley Park, the proper approach was for the submittal of a commemorative dedication and names application for consideration. The city received the application on July 23, 2024, and it was complete and attached to the staff report in your packet. Included with that is documentation from the applicant regarding the history of the land and the contributions of Mary Owsley and the family for the City Council's consideration. The Parks and Recreation Commission has reviewed the application and recommended council approval of the application at their August 20th meeting. The City Council is now asked to consider the request to reestablish the name of Owsley Park to the property currently hosting the Gilroy Golf Course facility. That completes the presentation. Happy to address any questions or comments.
Thank you, Bryce. Okay, I don't see anyone on the board. Any questions from council members? Okay, opening public comment? No public comment. No public
I
comment?
have a question, Mayor.
Oh, okay.
So the quitclaim deed released the property to the city?
Correct.
And why would it mean removal of restrictions?
So the quitclaim deed releases all title and interest and rights to the city. So it removed the restrictions from the original donation.
Okay. That's all.
Okay, I'm looking for a motion to establish the name.
I'll make a motion to approve.
A second.
All right, made by Councilmember Bracco and seconded by Councilmember Armendariz. Roll call.
Councilmember Bracco?
Yes.
Councilmember Armendariz?
Yes.
Councilmember Marks?
Yes.
Councilmember Klein?
Yes.
Councilmember Tovar?
Yes.
Mayor Blankley?
Yes. Passes 6 with 1 absent. 10.3, adoption of a resolution of the City Council of the City of Gilroy in review of the City of Gilroy's Conflict of Interest Code pursuant to its biennial review. Bryce is gone? Oh, it's Beth. Okay.
Thank
Sorry,
you.
Beth. It says Bryce here.
I thought Bryce was. I'm going to do it.
Okay.
Every 2 years, the Political Reform Act requires state and local government agencies to adopt a conflict of interest code. The Fair Political Practices Commission has adopted the regulations that contains the terms of a standard conflict of interest code. So we are here. It's done every 2 years on the even year. At your places this evening is an update with some last-minute additions and deletions. So we are asking that you approve and adopt the resolution to review the conflict of interest biennial review. If you have any questions, these forms are filed every year by April 1st by employees that are listed in the code.
Okay.
If you have any questions, I'm here to answer them.
I have a
Okay.
question.
Okay. Councilmember Armendariz.
Sure. If they are crossed out, does that mean that that position doesn't exist? Or could
Correct.
you explain to us the coding?
They no longer exist, and the ones that are highlighted, the ones that are red, have been added to it.
Thank you. Makes sense now.
I have a question, Beth. So the actual resolution itself, we had in our packets 2023-28. Will this one be just like that? It's just the attachment is different?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. That's what I wanted to know. Okay, then seeing no other questions from council members, going to public comment?
No public comment.
All right, no public comment. Coming back to council. Motion made by Councilmember Klein to approve, I assume. Okay, and seconded by Councilmember Tovar.
Councilmember Bracco?
Yes.
Councilmember Armendariz?
Yes.
Councilmember Marks?
Yes.
Councilmember Klein?
Yes.
Councilmember Tovar?
Yes.
Mayor Blankley?
Yes, that passes unanimously with one absent. All right, that brings us to 10.4. Consideration of a resolution of the Gilroy City Council calling for a legally valid 2024 general election. This is Jimmy. Not Bryce, not Beth, Jimmy. Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. At the September 9th, 2024 regular council meeting, a future agenda item was approved to be placed on the September 16th regular council meeting. The item in question is a consideration of a resolution of the Gilroy City Council calling for a legally valid 2024 general election. The proposed resolution is attached to your packet, and at this time, the council may amend, adopt, or reject the proposed resolution. That concludes my report. I can answer any questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to let Councilmember Marks go first, and she is the one who brought this forward. Go ahead.
Yes. Back in August, we had a group of people come forth to asking if this would be on the agenda. And we have a new agenda policy here, so I thought I would try it out. And I went ahead and put it on the agenda last week because healthy discussions are good. And we can have all different points of view, but I would always like to see us be able to discuss it. And when I proposed it last week, I said exactly what our city manager said. We could go ahead and accept it as is, or we could reject it, or we could accept bits and pieces of it. And I'm just going to share what I would like to propose, and then I want to have a healthy discussion with you, the audience, and with our fellow city council members. In looking at the proposed resolution, I like the first 3 paragraphs, and I wish we could have it up on the screen so you could follow along with me. I'm not going to go ahead and reread it, but the first 2 are the introductions, and then the 3rd paragraph talks about, I need my glasses here, talks about the 4 tenets of an election that should be upheld. The next paragraph I personally cannot accept because I do not have all the information to say whether the 22 general election had any problems with it. I understand why the group put in data because it was substantiating what they were trying to get across in their resolution. However, once again, I don't want to put my name to something with all this data when I do not have all the facts of the data. So I would suggest that that 4th paragraph be removed. I would suggest the 5th and 6th paragraphs be removed, and we go all the way down to now therefore be it resolved, and change that to Now therefore be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Gilroy that we call upon our representatives to provide, I don't like relief to the people, to provide fair and equal elections. Okay, so I would really like now to have a discussion, with everyone to see what you think.
Okay, Councilmember Armendariz.
Sure. Well, first, I'm surprised that Councilmember Marks, a couple of things, that this even got on our agenda. So to hear that you enjoy healthy discussion of items that the public brings to us is a surprise, given the amount of proposals that I've made for things to be agendized for discussion that have been denied by the majority, including yourself. So I'm pretty surprised at that.
Well, we got
The
4
other,
votes.
I'm sorry, I'm not
so-
done. So
You're insulting
the other
me.
thing is that any recognition of this type of resolution with any of the language included is legitimizing it, and to me is not acceptable. The language in the first through third the third and the paragraphs thereafter are at best vitriol, right? And don't belong in they're not germane to what we're doing as council members, especially when we have agencies, like I said last week, that put up safeguards, that contain experts, that have actual researchers and reporting, like the Office of the Attorney General, the Secretary of State, the Office of Civil Rights, the Department of Justice. We have safeguards and experts and actual researchers who look into this information, that pass policy to prevent voter fraud, and go after it when it does happen. But it is very rare. And that's why when we hear about it actually happening, it's a very rare occurrence. So I don't support this resolution at all or any iteration of it at this point. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to just remind everyone that what Councilmember Marks proposed was to omit much of what Councilmember Armendariz was just
I
referring to.
understood what she said.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm just reiterating that because you referred to it again. So it's the first 3 things and then just calling for fair elections. Councilmember Tovar.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. So I myself, I'm surprised this got on our agenda so quickly because we, whenever we present items like this, we're always told it may not happen for a while, but this quick turnaround. So I was kind of surprised at
It
that.
was on the agenda to come back on September 16th.
Right, no, I know, but
There was
again.
the date
So
was
I'm not
specified.
done. I'm not done,
I know,
Mayor.
but I'm just
Okay,
telling you the
well,
date was
I'm not-
specified.
We don't need
I'm not done.
editorializing Leah.
Yes, thank you.
I'm correcting. The
Right.
date was specified and
Anyhow,
the
Right, the
council
state
voted
voted
on it.
his
If I can finish,
perspective
You
is-
certainly may.
If I can finish, so, we have a lot of, and thank you, Councilman Marks, for making those comments, especially not wanting to attach your name to how this is read. I respect that because I myself would not want my name attached to this. But the thing that I'm confused about when it comes to this council is year after year after year, I hear it all the time when we're talking about resolutions where council members say no because it's not in our jurisdiction, right? There's no relationship to Gilroy, this and that. This is making a lot of assumptions. Again, if it was something that was written different and if there was legitimate concern, again, the comments about how the 2022 election was basically rigged, that's concerning to me, and I think it's divisive, and I think it's going to divide this community when we have resolutions like this. But again, for me, I'm going back to what I've heard from many council members is if it's not part of our jurisdiction, we shouldn't even be voting on something like this. So I, again, am going to vote against it because of that reason as well. So thank you.
Okay. Any other council members? Councilmember
I would
Klein?
just say that with the amendments that Councilman Marks made, I fully back that. It's talking about a concern that we should all have, especially now as we're going into a local election, but also state and national. It should be something that we should guard, that voting is protected for everybody in a fair way. So some of that language, I think you're correct in pulling that, and so I support that on your,
Mayor, can I ask another question?
A question?
Yeah,
Sure.
I guess, a comment.
Oh,
Thank you for
comment.
thank you for those comments. But again, I think that we already have a fair and equal election, right? I mean, if someone can tell me, give me proof that we have not had fair elections, then that's a different story. But I don't see how in Gilroy that affects us here, right? So, I just should not vote with my conscience in regards to this here, because I think that it's applying that we here in Gilroy are not running our elections fairly and equally. So, again, I would have to disagree with this. So that's it. Thank you.
Well, I think you also need to realize that we're talking about future elections too. But do our voter registration sheets need to be cleaned up? Yes. One of my friends has a voter registration sheet right now because of the election. We have a person voting who was born in 1910. That would make this person 114 years of age. If he or she is alive, I'd love to see them come down to the council chambers so we can honor this person. We've all heard of people who have gotten mail ballots for their children that no longer live in the household. And then we have heard where, I have friends in Oregon that still get a California state ballot because they call me up and say, hey, guess what we just got? It doesn't hurt.
Do we have proof of that?
Okay, let's not interrupt.
Yes.
Okay? It's Councilmember Marks.
Yes, Councilmember, we do have proof of it. I'll be glad to show it to you.
Please.
I feel a testiness here. Discussion is healthy, but if we don't agree with some of you, you get very upset by it. And you don't know 100% what's actually happening out there. None of us do. But all we're saying is let's keep things fair. We care about our voting system. We're not accusing. We're not saying Gilroy's cheating. But let's just say fair and free elections. Why is that so hard?
I'm a hand up
Okay,
here.
yes, but I haven't spoken yet, so I'm going to go. Okay, thank you. Yeah, I'm in agreement with Councilmember Klein. Any wording in this resolution that is suggesting that there has been any wrongdoing, I would not agree with. But to just promote fair elections, that absolutely affects Gilroy. We have elections here, too. It is the Register of Voters that's responsible for it, so it's not us who does it. But this is absolutely something that directly affects us and all of us sitting here. And so to promote them as fair is one thing. To suggest that there's been wrongdoing is something else. Right. And so I'm in agreement with what Councilmember Klein said and with what Councilmember Marks is proposing, which eliminates all of the language in what was proposed that suggests any kind of wrongdoing. Okay, Councilmember Armendariz.
Sure. So first, I think that the stories that we've heard are anecdotal. If you look on the website of the Secretary of State or the Attorney General and their reports on voter fraud or what was perceived at voter fraud, we have actual data by actual experts who tell us that this doesn't exist. We have our city clerk here, Beth. We have our registrar of voters. We have a whole team of almost 1,000 people at the registrar of voters whose sole job is to make sure that these things don't happen, right? I invite you, if you've never been to the registrar of voters when they're counting votes, when they're sorting ballots, it is very precise. It is a science, right? And it's been something that is highly scrutinized and supervised. So I just think it's a waste of time, but it's not victimless. Resolutions like this are not harmless. So number one, it's fear-mongering. It's a tactic. To many of us, it's obvious and transparent that these type of resolutions embolden people to discriminate against members of our community who are of different opinions than their own. These type of resolutions snowball into policies. This is not something we should pass so carelessly or even discuss or legitimize so flippantly. We've seen the harmful impact to our democracy that results from these type of policies, from decades of discrimination, from decades of voter suppression, and most recently, millions of people were illegally kicked off the voter rolls in Texas, Georgia, Louisiana, and then a fake website was put up by members of the government of very far right-wing leaning or voting members of the government. They've put up a fake website for people to re-enroll as voters. This is dangerous stuff, and it starts with seeds being planted like this. So working class Americans, Black Americans, seniors, young Americans, Latinos, they are impacted the most by these type of resolutions, and they have been historically for generations. So we have folks who put their lives on the line. We have the freedom riders. We have people in our audience today who were out there fighting for voting rights and they put their lives and their health and their safety and that of their families on the line to stand up against this kind of stuff that starts like this. So it's not okay. It's not okay for us to take our city back 60 years and our country back 60 years by alleging these things. And if you don't trust the government and government agencies, but you're a city council member, then I have news for you. You are part of this. And we have to demand respect and we have to demand trust by acting accordingly.
Thank you. We have 17 speakers, is that right? Okay. Yeah, we have members in the audience on both sides, so that's why we don't do the clapping. This is the safe space for everybody to say what they feel. I've already said it, so I'm not going to repeat that none of us are asserting what Councilmember Armendariz just said, so we'll just let that, everybody can take that for what they want. Okay, so Beth, you want to go ahead and start calling? There are 17, so it's 2 minutes each.
Correct.
Okay.
So if you're going to speak, please come to the front. Our first three speakers are Andrea Hightower, Nashaba Afzal, and Sabra Dupree.
My name is Andrea Hightower. I'm a registered voter here in Gilroy. The 2022 report states that 5.8 million ineligible voters that were on the voter roll database. How many of them actually voted, and where's the source of that information? It also stated that there was 2.7 million ineligible voters. Where's the source of that information, and how many of them actually voted, and how many of their votes actually counted? When you even imply a fair election, say as of right now, you are implying that the election is not fair right now. So I would recommend that you vote no on this resolution. And I want to remind you, many years ago, there were actually Santa Clara County registered voters, citizens, my husband included, who were removed from the voter polls and still had an opportunity to vote provisionally. If you're going to create a resolution, create one that actually provides accessibility for people to vote and not discriminate against others who may not have the same abilities. Create more opportunity. That's fairness.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Nashaba Afzal, to be followed by Sabra Dupree and then Warren Seifert.
Carol, I am speechless with you saying that you want healthy discussions. I have emailed you numerous times since you have become elected councilwoman. You have never, along with Dion and Councilmember Klein, never even responded to any of our emails on the unhoused, fireworks, safety, anything. So it's hypocritical for you to sit there and say, oh, healthy discussions. Come on, let's be best friends now. It's hypocritical for you to cherry pick and give us that false, and I call it false, hypocrisy. I ask all of you to reject this frivolous, accusatory resolution. And Councilmember Tovar, you're surprised to see it. You voted yes last time at the meeting to get agendized. So if we, who don't serve on the council, can do our homework, we urge each and every one of you to do your homework. The 5 of you council members and the mayor who voted for this ludicrous resolution to be agendized today, have you really lost your minds? I've lost all due respect for many of you. To, seriously, your blatant hypocrisy to even entertain this resolution about a fraudulent conspiracy theory. We all know where it came from. We all know who's behind it. And to act like, oh, we just want healthy discussions. Your previous statements show it's disingenuous. And for those of you up for re-election, really, you want to put your name behind you're the ones who are wasting our time in this council member to review this resolution? Carol, you claimed this resolution.
Thank you.
Was
It's 2
agendized.
minutes. It's the 2-minute time is up. Thank you, though.
I hope you do your
Dupree.
homework.
Our next speaker is Sabra Dupree, followed by Warren Seifert and then Bill O'Connor.
I'm Sabre Dupree, and I had only one thing to say. And I'm old. I've seen procedures go forward, and once you adopt that you are going to protect an election, sooner or later you have to put money aside and people aside, and you have to show up and you have to add to whatever is being done to make sure that there's a fair and equal election, because a resolution like this identifies a problem. If there's a problem, then you're supposed to help ameliorate or eliminate the problem by making more sure that it is fair and just and equal. And so this is a first step toward a budget item. And I think that there would never be a need, personally, from what I've seen, the way we run our elections, that there would never be a need for the Gilroy City Council to start protecting our elections with its efforts and its budget. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Okay, Warren, right? Warren Seifert.
Warren Seifert, to be followed by Bill O'Connor, and then Teresa Perez.
Good evening. My name is Warren Seifert. I'm a registered voter, resident of Gilroy. I favor valid elections and open discussion, but I strongly oppose this resolution. And I urge council members to reject the resolution because it is based on false information used to undermine the integrity of our elections by an anti-government extremist group, United Sovereign Americans. The facts this group claim are dangerous conspiracy theories. There are not 6 million ineligible voter registrations out of the 22 million registered voters in California, or almost 3 million ineligible votes, as they claim, cast in the 2022 election. Actual facts need to be known to establish the truth. California elections are free, fair, and only allow eligible voters to participate. The county registrar of voters should be consulted to verify the truth about the security of our elections and to rebut their false claims. I urge council to contact the Santa Clara Registrar of Voters before voting on this resolution. The FBI has posted several articles online about the fraudulent activities of United Sovereign Americans. Please do your research before voting. This is a dangerous position promoted by a far-right extremist group, and the city should not be part of their campaign. I urge you to vote against the resolution. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Bill O'Connor, yeah.
Bill O'Connor, to be followed by Teresa Perez and Joanne Fierro.
Mayor and council members, my name is Bill O'Connor. I'm a resident of Gilroy and a vote center aide for Santa Clara County Registrar of Voters. I am working the primary and general elections this year. Before each election, we are required to take 3 full days of training. I did my training for this coming election 2 weeks ago. The course continually stresses maintaining the integrity of the election process and protecting the privacy of each voter's ballot. As of July 2024, there were 22.2 million registered voters in California, per the Secretary of State. If you approve this resolution and send it to the state and county, you will be indicating you believe that there were 5.9 million uncertain or questionable voters at the time of the 2022 general election. That is more than 25% of the registered voters. I am sure that the state would look at that number very skeptically and ask you where you got your numbers. You would say you got the numbers from United Sovereign Americans. They would probably then ask you what kind of due diligence you did into this organization and their numbers. I have been reading up on this organization. Their CEO is Harry Hari. He was involved with the fraud cases after the 2020 general election. As you are probably aware, there were over 60 cases that went to court, and only one was successful. This organization has brought lawsuits regarding the 2022 general election against the states of Maryland, Pennsylvania, and Colorado. A federal judge in Maryland dismissed the case as frivolous, although the ruling is being appealed. The authorities in Pennsylvania said the group does not understand election law. The Colorado authorities simply said it's a sham lawsuit. I would be very cautious working with United Sovereign Americans. Is this truly an organization you want to be affiliated with?
Bill, I'm sorry.
I
Your
strongly
time is
urge
up.
you to vote no on approving
It's
this resolution.
time for Teresa
I do not
Perez.
believe it represents
Teresa
the
Perez,
opinions of
please.
most Gilroy residents.
you're done.
I have been talking with friends and neighbors this
You
week
could take
about
the
this
microphone,
subject.
Teresa. It's your turn.
They
now.
want a strong
It's-
vetting
Our next
process
speaker
for
is
folks
Teresa. Our next
when they
speaker,
register
yes,
to
is
vote.
Teresa Perez.
They do not want voter ID cards.
Can we have someone
This
escort
matches well
this
with my
gentleman
experience
away
in the
from the
polls,
microphone, please?
where I have only been told
All right.
twice by voters that I should be demanding
Okay,
ID
we're
for
going to
them
take
to
a
vote.
recess.
If you truly have concerns regarding the integrity of elections, why not get the registrar of voters, the true experts, to meet with the council and address your concerns?
Good evening, Madam Mayor and council members of our diverse and culturally blessed town of Gilroy. I am compelled to speak today on the agenda item as I was immediately embarrassed to find it listed. I say embarrassed because I am unsure what would compel even one council member of a town within Santa Clara County and the Bay Area to entertain the ideologies of the United Sovereign Americans. They claim they are dedicated to unify and protect America and the voting system, which we have come to associate these sentiments as voter suppression for our country's majorities, which you all, like Ron Kirkish, would call minorities. Unlike reputable, respected, nonpartisan resources that help integrate voters' engagement in ongoing activities and services, such as the League of Women Voters and Asian Law Alliance, this group is reaching out to create fear and misinformation to those citizens and council members easily persuaded with conspiracy theories and, truthfully, anti-American sentiments. I ask that our council and mayor not entertain the ideas of such a radical group and instead help promote and engage our community to participate in our election system by signing up with the registrar of voters, starting with Councilmember Marquez. The lack of information and education will be transformed into new understanding and appreciation for our voting system. I am a county employee of 20 years, a SEMA member, a manager, and former Registrar of Voters employee of over 3 years. 3 family members of mine volunteer each election cycle who are current retired county supervisors and clerks. Each election, at least 5 of my clerical staff volunteer, former program managers, current supervisors of social services, and many other county employees and retirees. Entertaining and advocating these voter suppressive ideas is offensive to all of us registrar of voter employees, volunteers, and respected county employee retirees.
Thank you. Joanne and then Maria.
Our next speaker is Joanne Maria Aguilar and then Daniel Donovan.
Well, I think you've been educated about how unseemly this group is, this United Sovereign Americans. They are just a group of denializers. They are the group that says it's a big lie, and you're just supporting them. Okay, so what have we done so far? We've already done harm because we're giving them time. We're giving them our voices. We're giving them our consideration. They don't deserve it. And you know who else doesn't deserve it? The election workers that are always put in danger. Every time somebody talks about, I'm sorry, I'm emotional. Every time somebody talks about a not fair election, we are setting them up. We're setting up for the same crap that happened in 2020. We're setting them up again. So just think about that when you vote. This is a serious darn thing. Okay?
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Maria Aguilar, to be followed by Daniel Donovan and then Sally Armandaris.
I'm just going to make it quick. As a poll worker, and some of them across our country are stepping out because they've been doing it 15, 20 years. They have been targeted. These folks are, zeroing in on them, and many of them are just walking away. The other thing is, I almost find it incredulous when you talk about our veterans and our servicemen and who are fighting for our democracy. And when you put something like this out there and you're saying only walk-in ballots are valid, you're discounting our servicemen that are all around our globe. Thank you.
Thank you. Daniel?
Madam Mayor, City Council members, I've been a homeowner and voter here in Gilroy for 24 years, and I voted in every election since I became eligible to vote in July of 1971. 6 years ago, I retired from working in Silicon Valley. I'd never been particularly involved in civics, but 2.5 years ago, I decided that I needed to serve my country, my county, and my state by becoming a poll worker. So 2.5 years ago, I was a stipend worker. In the last 2 elections, I've been an aide. And in the next election, in the November presidential election, I intend to be a co-leader of a vote center, probably here in Gilroy. I don't believe that the council should go on record as supporting any language in this resolution. We have fair and equal elections. And that's about really all I have to say. If you don't understand the process, if you don't understand the voting equipment, please contact the Registrar of Voters in Santa Clara County and they will show you how it works. It is not full of, I'm sorry, this crap. It's fair, equitable, and it's legal. And this kind of language encourages people who may be on the fringes to come to polling places and do felonious behavior, which, by the way, is punishable by 3 years in state prison and probably will be punished at the federal level as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Our next speaker is Sally Armendariz, to be followed by Ron Kirkish and then Connie Rogers.
Okay, my name is Sally Armendariz, and during my teen years, I was very involved in St. Mary's Church, where we worked really hard to change the laws that discriminated against Chicanos, Mexicanos, black people, and all other people of color, including our voting rights. So the resolution that you're considering passing tonight takes me back to before those times, where people had to be subjected to violence and abuse if they want to exercise their right as Americans to vote. Voter ID laws might seem like a good idea, but for God's sake, there are plenty of us U.S. citizens who can lose their birth certificates or their IDs. I'm lucky because I can just go down to San Jose and get my birth certificate. But some of you that sit up there maybe weren't born in Santa Clara County and would have a difficulty getting that. So think about it. I know that it's a law. I know that if it's a law, it's a resolution that could be led to policy. And if you pass it again, it shows your disregard for your community. It tells people that you don't care if they vote or not, actually, that you don't want them to vote. It's un-American. My friends and family didn't die in World War II or Vietnam so that you could take away their family's civil rights, and that's what you would be doing. This city council has time and time again failed its residents in many ways. Your blatant disregard for civil rights is disgusting and heartbreaking. As I said, growing up in the 60s and having to stand up for my civil rights makes me a proud American. And having my city council blatantly considering voting us back to those days is disgusting. If you vote this resolution, shame on you. Shame on you for your discriminating against the invisible people of your community, because obviously you don't see them. So I expect you to do the right thing and not vote this thing in. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Ron Kirkish, to be followed by Connie Rogers and then Aaron O'Brien.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, staff, and community. I strongly support and I thank Councilwoman Marks and the group that brought this to our attention. This is an important issue. Free and fair elections is the bulwark of our country. And if we don't have those, then we have chaos. We don't have a democracy. To ensure that we have free and fair elections is very, very important. And that's what this group has brought to our attention. And again, I strongly thank Councilwoman Marks and those who voted in the affirmative to ask for this resolution. It is important. As far as some of the talk that I've heard, this is not an issue regarding race at all. It has to do with our country having free and fair elections. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Connie Rogers, to be followed by Aaron O'Brien, and then Michelle Nelson.
Good evening, council members and Mayor Blankley. I am a registered voter and a former elected official, as was my husband. So I also have been a supervisor at a polling place in Gilroy for almost 20 years. I have not done that since COVID happened, but I have seen intimately how the registrar of voters works and what their system is, and I have complete faith in it. It's probably a good thing that our registrar of voters doesn't purge their rolls like we have heard happens in some other states. But there is a system for removing people who've died, and there is a system, just by your signature, you have to sign the ballot, and they compare those signatures electronically. So, for instance, someone Tom Fisher, said he had 2 signatures bounced back on his last petition to run for office because one of his friends said, well, my husband can't sign because he has Parkinson's, so I always sign for him. And the registrar immediately kicked those back. So I believe that we already have free and fair elections, and we are so fortunate. I'm asking all of you, if you have doubts about the system, please either take the training that Mr. Donovan and others have taken, or go to the registrar's office yourself and see what they do here in Santa Clara County. This is the only county that we have influence over, but I think you would feel much reassured to know what their system is and see how it actually works. So I urge you not to adopt this resolution. Thank you.
Okay. Our next speaker, Aaron O'Brien, to be followed by Michelle Nelson, and then Arcelia O'Connor.
Good evening. By agendizing this resolution, which was drafted in its entirety by members of a dangerous grassroots movement who believe that and are spreading the lies that there is mass fraud in elections, is incredibly problematic. It is not just having a conversation. By putting this on the agenda, you legitimize their position, which is that our elections in this country are not free and fair. That is so undermining of our democracy, and we're feeling across the country the consequences of that. The conversations have consequences. What you put on the agenda today has consequences. And I would urge you strongly to reject it in its entirety. Any number of groups can bring you dangerous conspiracy theories that would undermine our community and our citizenry and our country. I would expect you to take a look at them and think this is problematic to bring forward, because when we agendize it, we give it legitimacy. Amending it is insufficient. You must reject it outright. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Michelle Nelson, to be followed by Arcelia O'Connor, and then Susan B.
Okay, hi, it's been a while. I was surprised to see this on the agenda, and I don't have a prepared speech because this was like this afternoon. A couple of things in the resolution itself that I have an issue with. Councilmember Marks already said maybe eliminate that paragraph that has data, and I had a question about the data. conducted by California citizens. Who are they? Open source audit. Who are they? Remember the audit that was done by the cyber ninjas in Arizona? That was great, wasn't it? On the next page, the paragraph that you can change the wording, provide relief to the people. It says, we call upon our representatives to provide what? The assurance of... No. I believe that we already have free and fair elections, and to put this forward is doing a disservice to all of us. Number 5, adjudication must be signed off by party candidate and trained citizen witnesses. We saw what happened to people who were just doing their job in Arizona. We saw what happened in Georgia and in other places. So, no. I looked up the organization. Yeah. Oh, I called the registrar of voters this afternoon. She said no fraud. She explained that the requests that they get sometimes are from people who don't understand what the process is. I looked up United Sovereign Americans, and then I looked up Democracy Docket. Yes, it's a left-leaning organization, but they are rated very high in factual reporting. I know I'm limited, but basically one of the founders was doing door-to-door knocking and pretending to be part of the elections people. Cease and desist. And then she got together with this other person who heard about it and said, yeah, let's do that, but let's not do it that way. Let's do it a little bit underhanded. Let's do that. There was another person who spoke last time, what was it, Election Integrity Project of California, that they didn't like the results of 2020, so they filed a lawsuit. They lost. They appealed it. They lost. Please do not vote for this in any shape, way, form. It's just giving them, as somebody said, legitimacy, and we can't do that.
Thank you. Thanks, Michelle.
Our next speaker is Arcelia O'Connor, to be followed by Susan B. and Armando Benavides.
Good evening. I am a first-generation American. My parents were born in Mexico, immigrated to the United States, became citizens, and voted. I am a 40-year resident of Gilroy, and I vote. I am against approval of the resolution that has been brought before the City Council by the group mentioned. In my 40 years in this community, I have never, ever heard, read, or seen any evidence that there has been any problem with our elections. Therefore, I seriously question the statement on page 149 of your packet, which is the first line of the whereas, which states, California's 2022 general election appears to have been invalid. Says who? This is an extremely serious accusation, and this group should take their concerns to the California Secretary of State and the Registrar of Voters. It is the responsibility of those entities to investigate. Look at their websites if you haven't, and you will learn that they are committed to elections that are safe and secure. The process is transparent. Look at it, read it, you can see. And you know what? You can volunteer if you have any questions. The Secretary of State's website provides clear and accurate information in response to some of the widespread rumors about elections. You can read the reality, rumors, and facts, as well as sources to help voters stay informed about the election process. Vote no on this resolution or any version or modification of it. If you approve any part of this, you are endangering the lives and the safety of all those who work to make elections fair and honest. Vote no on this resolution or any version or modification of it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sue
Our
B.
next speaker is Sue B., to be followed by Armando Benavides, and then Dennis Jameson.
Good evening. I'm a volunteer for United Sovereign Americans, not a spokesperson, and I want to speak in favor of having you, the Gilroy City Council, sign the resolution in support of fair, honest, and legal elections. You as citizens and the residents of your community are all impacted if elections are not conducted lawfully. USA is a national organization active in over 20 states. They are so confident in their data analysis efforts of the voter rolls in each of these states that to date they have filed lawsuits in 9 states encompassing 6 different federal circuit courts. This is not a partisan issue, nor is it an assault on election workers in our county and state. It is a civil rights violation if an eligible citizen voter has their vote diluted by those ineligible to vote. Under the 14th Amendment, Section 2 of the U.S. Constitution, the states have to equally protect against denial of the vote and dilution of the vote. Can California prove it has done this? We have shared alarming data found in California. Analysts spent hundreds of hours analyzing the official 2022 voter rolls provided by the Secretary of State and found that a massive number of the voter registration did not comply with the standards defined by federal and state law and the Constitution. They used system query language, SQL, also known as SQL, to search through the information on that database. Questions like, how many people have more than one voter ID? It's like your Social Security number. You should only have one. Questions like, how many registrants are deceased? Looking at the death certificates and matching those up to the voters. How many people voted before they were registered? That should never happen. How many registrants have invalid names? Blank names, asterisks, they're not complete names. How many have invalid addresses? They were incomplete, blank, or contained invalid addresses as required by law. Inactive voter status, no voting for several cycles. They are supposed to be contacted to see if they still live at that address and are still an active voter in that area. Age discrepant, invalid birth date. If they're underage, not 18, if the age is blank, if they're over 115 years old, those are all records that need to be looked at. How many had their birthplace altered? These were the type of questions that USA looked at. The second question.
I'm sorry.
Your time is up.
Yeah, it's
Well,
it's
darn.
okay. I mean,
I thought I had
someone
it.
else kept going, but
Okay.
you shouldn't. Thank you.
Our next
Yes,
speaker
thank you.
is Armando Benavides, to be followed by Dennis Jameson, Judy Hess, and then our final speaker will be Daniela Ariano.
Good afternoon, Council. So for this strategic plan for this item, it reads not applicable. So if it's irrelevant to the city's strategic goals and plans, it must be serving a political purpose. This item was initiated by a public comment request. All the commentators offered were unreliable, inaccurate, and unofficial statements of voters' irregularities in California. The commentators used descriptive accusations like massive inaccuracies that appear to violate federal and state law. And the election certification appears to have been fraudulent and illegal. You believe that, Kool-Aid? If in fact they had found valid, reliable, massive violations of federal and state law, they would not be here before you requesting a resolution. You know where they would be? In court, seeking judicial review. You just heard it, massive fraudulent stuff going on here in our California elections. So if this resolution does not meet any of the strategic goals and plans for the city, it must be an unnecessary political gimmick on the part of the majority if it approves this resolution. This resolution is going to do nothing but confuse the voters and send the wrong message. Now, I would say to you that I agree that we must have transparent, reliable, and valid elections, but we must not rely on impressions based on unreliable, unofficial, and questionable partisan political impressions. That's what you're getting, partisan political impressions. You have no way to know the reliability and validity of the purported findings reported by some vague California citizens. Who are those California citizens? What is their political affiliation? You don't know the methods they use or what data they use, whether from a reliable or
I'm sorry. I'm getting engrossed in everybody's comments, but I need to watch the clock too. It's
okay. Well, thank you.
Your time. Thank you.
Vote no for this resolution.
Our next speaker is Dennis Jameson, to be followed by Judy Hess, and our final speaker, Daniela Ariano.
Madam Mayor, City Council members, I am a representative of Election Integrity Project California. Election Integrity Project California has been operating in California since 2010. I also was a former teacher. I taught at a local community college for quite a number of years. One of the things that I'm amazed about is when kids don't do their homework. You can actually tell when they don't because they're talking off the top of their head, they're making stuff up, pulling it out of their back pocket, and laying it out there and presenting it as real. What I've heard tonight from a lot of the speakers is pieces of a puzzle. It's pieces that they heard somewhere along the line, but they didn't do their homework. I just heard something about EIPCA, which is totally erroneous. I'm not saying that everybody who spoke here was not speaking the truth, but when you hear lies, you have to somehow react, or you're dead, or already brainwashed. In reality, when we have looked at every single election since 2010 and come up with irregularities and illegalities, and nobody is listening, the reality is that we've taken our findings reports not only to the Attorney General, we've taken them to the Secretary of State, who is supposed to be in charge of the elections here, and without any response, without doing anything, there is no representative government in reality. When people don't respond, all we're doing here in this series of activities is essentially asking you, who are citizens of the United States. I'm a citizen of California, meaning I'm a citizen of the United States too, and I'm concerned about the elections, not just across the country, but here in the state of California that we've been examining
time is up, too.
this time. We urge
Thank
you
you, sir.
to vote yes to show
Thank
that you
you.
support fair, honest, and valid elections.
Thank you.
Our next speaker, Judy Hess, followed by our final speaker, Daniela Ariano.
Hi, I'm Judy Hess. I do live in Gilroy. I am a citizen, and I just want to thank you as our representatives for being here every week, every month, to represent all of us. So all of us together make up Gilroy. And so I just wanted to thank you for that. And as our public servants, we trust that all of our public servants represent us. And I was glad to hear dissenting voices, because that's what made America America, that we could all have different voices. But what I just heard from a couple of people right now was, and I was shocked, honestly, because I'm one of the people that wanted this resolution to come to Gilroy. And the reason I wanted this resolution to come to Gilroy is because this resolution, and I'm guessing that everybody read it, the only thing about this resolution is to follow existing laws. We don't want new laws. We're not telling people to change the law. All this resolution says is follow the existing law. This has nothing to do, if you read the resolution, and I have a few friends here, I have a few friends that are watching online as well. This resolution, I didn't get in my packet the backup of these numbers. I heard you guys did. I honestly don't know. But there are backup that shows the numbers here. There's nothing in here that says anything about color. Who cares about what color you are? We're Americans. That's what we care about. I've had people say that I got a ballot for my son who moved out of the state years ago. I hear from people all the time that the ballots they're not correct. And all we're asking is to follow the law. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker. We have
Our
another-
final speaker is Daniela Ariano.
Is there a Daniela? Oh.
Good evening. Just want to take this time to say that the resolution doesn't have much thought. I guess the big question I have is, who performed the independent evaluation of our 2022 election and provided the stats? Okay, here. The resolution doesn't name who the independent is and whether or not it has a reputable independent, whether or not it is a reputable independent or just an independent criticism of the election process. I believe in the voting rules and the laws provided by the state of California and our elected officials. I believe that we have to stand by those and do our best to provide fair voting rights and results. I believe that Gilroy has always abided by these rules, and that we as a city in the state of California should continue to follow the voting rules and status set forth by the elected officials. and not follow Republican or Democrat attempts to sway outcomes of all voting outcomes. We have a right to a fair, sorry, I have a disability. We have a right to a fair where the winner is proclaimed and the loser conceded to the result of our American voting process. I did not see any need for the resolution as vague as the one the City Council is trying to pass at this time. I'm a person of color. I have a disability. I have a master's in urban planning, so I'm also seeing this from a different perspective, also as a citizen. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. That concludes
That's it.
public speakers. Okay. Then closing the public comment and bringing this back to the City Council. I'm sorry. The public comment is closed. Yeah. Councilmember Marks, do you want to say anything, or does anybody want to?
Mayor?
I think she wants to.
Well, go. I'll
Okay,
go after
Councilmember Tovar.
Yeah, well, thank you for everybody that came here tonight and speak about this. I mean, it's a very, very important issue that we're discussing here. And for my fellow council members, you know, as we all know, I mean, we were voted in to represent our community, but more importantly, listen to our community and what they felt was best for Gilroy. And a lot of us say, well, I want to hear the community, I want to hear the community. Well, the community spoke tonight, right? 14, 15 to 4, whatever the number of folks that spoke. As you can see, there's a difference between, yes, having a healthy discussion, but also seeing kind of the impacts that something like this is going to make in our community. So, again, I urge you to, again, listen to the community and vote no on this. Thank you.
Okay. Councilmember Marks, do you want to go next? Because
Sure.
Okay.
Well, I know a lot of you had your speeches written beforehand, before, we had talked about some of the adjustments that we would have made to this. To be perfectly honest with you, I don't know which way to go, because I like what Judy has said. I agree with that. The only thing we want is just, free, fair elections. It has something to do with race. It has nothing to do with, any cheating going on. I never thought for a minute that Gilroy, had cheating. It was just something to say, yes, I can support this. Because if I didn't support it, I'd be saying I wasn't for free elections or fair elections. And to me, it was just common sense. I already told you how I felt about the data. I disregarded it, right off the bat. I don't know. I don't know which way I'm going to go, because on one side, I hear what the audience is saying. On the other hand, I really stand behind free and fair elections. And I never for a minute thought that by saying we wanted, or I wanted, a free, fair election, that I was saying that we had illegal elections. That to me never, ever came into my thought process. It was like a continuation of free and fair elections, guaranteeing everyone had a right to vote. I never thought of race. I didn't bring this in as a racist issue. It was just like, I want to protect everyone's votes. And so I don't know. It needs to have, if we propose this as a motion, it has to be reworded. And then that might be, see if anyone else wants to talk, and if you want, I will propose a motion, but.
Would you like to, you brought this forward,
Right,
would you
I
like
did.
to withdraw it? That's, I mean,
well,
it's just,
how does the council feel? I want the council to give me input too. No, I'm not going to be the sole person that's saying that. Come
you're
on.
not going to be the sole person. Everybody has to
Mayor?
vote on it.
I want to hear
Mayor,
everyone's
can I-
thoughts on this.
Mayor, can I ask a question?
Okay, go ahead.
Wait, okay, is that all right? Councilmember Armendariz is on the board. Is it okay to go to Councilmember
No.
Tovar?
Sorry,
Okay,
Fred.
Councilmember Armendariz.
You talk a lot, Fred, so I get to go too.
Well, I think
we all do.
Yeah.
Question. So if it is law and you don't imagine that there's cheating and you agree that we do have free and fair elections, then I don't see why we would need a resolution to assert that if you don't think that there is cheating. It seems like all this has been for in vain and a waste of time. And like Fred said, the people have spoken. You know, folks have said, people of color, folks from all different backgrounds and stuff are telling us, like, this has an impact on us. This has had an impact on us for generations. It would be lovely to have this Pollyannic view of we are all Americans and we all have the same rights and equity. We don't, and we haven't. And we can't erase history. We can't deny history and think that, or pretend that tactics like this haven't been implemented deliberately to suppress the vote of people, to suppress the vote of black and brown people, of disabled people, of LGBTQ plus people for generations. And so I think one of our members of the audience said, let's move forward. Let's make voting more accessible. Let's encourage people to vote. These type of resolutions discourage people from voting. This type of resolutions plant seeds in people's head that people are cheating. And yes, registrar of voter employees across the country have been threatened. You know, people had to move, people had to change their last names. You know, dedicated civil servants who take an oath of office have been attacked, and we don't want that to happen. And we don't want this kind of stuff to germinate in people's minds and be untrusting of each other as voters. I've registered voters. I've worked at the polls since I was a kid, right? I've worked on campaigns since I was a teenager. I've pored over data rolls. I've never seen like the things that folks mentioned were evidence of voter fraud, asterisks in people's names, things like that. Never. And I was poring over voter data last night. Hundreds and hundreds of names. I don't see that. I've never come across it. It is really hard to get people to register to vote, and it's really hard to get them out to vote. So I wish we had a problem with people clamoring to vote. You know, I wish that was our problem, but it's not. And like somebody said, we need to encourage people, not discourage them. So I really encourage you, council member, to rescind this resolution.
You know, as I sit here and I agree with what you're saying. I hear you. I just don't see how the words in a resolution, we want a free and fair election, is offensive to anyone or accuses elections to be not fair. I just don't see it. It's just like saying, yes, I am shocked by the number of people that came out tonight to talk against it.
And you should trust
because
them. Hear them and trust them.
Okay, let's not interrupt.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, as you would say, I'm talking.
Okay.
So I don't know. I still need to hear from two council members.
Councilmember Tovar. Oh, Councilmember Bracco. Sorry, my board's changing.
Yes. Like Carol, I'm really not sure what to do on this. I know that the Santa Clara County Register of Voters, they're like top notch and they do an excellent job. But I also realize there's other registers of voters around that, they don't have the resources and they don't do as good a job. But looking at this with the corrections, it's like the gentleman that got up at our last meeting and said, it's simple. Either you're for a legitimate election or you're not. That's what it kind of came down to for me. So, yeah, I don't know one way or the other. And I do want to correct an individual that got up and said, I don't return her emails.
Oh, I agree.
I did a search of your name and I have never received an email from you. So if you want to contact me, you need to call me and see why I didn't get your emails. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Councilmember Tovar.
Thank you, Mayor. Given where we're at currently, Mayor, and given that no one has made a motion to pass this resolution, I would actually like to make a motion to completely reject this resolution.
I'll second that.
Okay.
Okay, go for it.
Okay, is there any other council member discussion? Okay, then we'll take a vote on that. Sure. I just wanted to go and say that everybody should be in support of fair elections, and I believe everybody in this audience is. Everybody who came to speak, nobody was saying that there shouldn't be fair elections. Sadly, when we get things on the agenda, what goes in the packet, I mean, I don't even get to see in advance, so it just, what went in the packet is not it's not anything that the council said they were considering. It's just what goes in that was submitted by somebody. And so nobody here was ever considering the wording of this, which was the subject of many of the public speakers here, was the wording that was here, and that was never what we were going to adopt. But as important as it is for everybody to have access to voting, every single person who is eligible, who lives here, who's a resident here, to vote, it's just as important that that votes are not diluted, as one person said too, so that they be accurate. And I am not here saying that they aren't, but to promote that they should be, that we would always strive for, that is no different than anything else that we vote to strive for. I personally don't see the necessity of adopting a resolution here on this subject, but I feel that way about much of what others bring forward to this council when it comes to resolutions and proclamations. A lot of it is stuff we do because it feels good, and it's not something that we necessarily have to bring. So we have a motion and a second. So we'll take a roll call vote.
Councilmember Bracco? No. Councilmember Armendariz?
Yes.
Councilmember Marks?
Yes.
Councilmember Klein?
No.
Councilmember Tovar?
Yes.
Councilmember Blankley, or Mayor Blankley?
Okay, yes, yes, yeah, that it be withdrawn. Okay, thank you everybody for coming. That brings us to our next agenda item, which is 12, because we have no future agenda items here. City Administrator's reports.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Please don't leave. This is the good stuff. This is good stuff. I just have a very brief report about 4 things that are going on in our community that I think the public would want to hear about, but maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you,
Mr. Tovar.
We're still continuing a meeting, everybody, please. Okay.
Okay. This Friday evening, September 20th at 6 o'clock at the Donald Elvis Prieto Downtown Pop-Up Park, the Arts and Culture Commission is holding the unveiling event for the public art campaign for the love of Gilroy. So please, if you have time, come down to the pop-up park and you can see all the art that the local artists have produced, and we'll be going up down along Monterey Road. Second, rain or shine, the annual Coastal Cleanup Day is scheduled for Saturday, September 21st from 9 to 12 at Solar Solano Middle School. The Recreation Division will provide gloves, grabbers, vests, and snacks for volunteers. All ages are welcome. This is really good for our youth for community service hours, and so please come out, rain or shine, Saturday. Next, we have another exciting event on Saturday. It's a very busy weekend. Caltrain will be having their electrification celebration. They have launched electrified service from San Francisco to Diridon. I rode it Friday. It is amazing. This being Gilroy travelers from San Francisco through San Jose will save up about 20 minutes on their commute on some really nice, some really new trains. Unfortunately, the electrification doesn't come all the way down to Gilroy, but it will soon. And so Caltrain is sponsoring a ride event where you can ride the train on Saturday from Gilroy up to San Jose and attend one of the 2 celebration events. The free train will depart Saturday morning at 12:26, make all the stops up to San Jose Diridon, and then to Palo Alto Station for a 2 o'clock event. Caltrain has told me that this event gets 2,000-3,000 people at it, because it's a lot of fun and a lot of neat things. So we as a city will be hosting a welcome tent as you get on the train at 12:26, and we'll give you some snacks and some information about how to ride the train. And then last but not least is Wednesday night, myself, the city's police chief and retired fire chief will hold a public safety sales tax ballot measure community meeting. We'll do that in English and Spanish. And that will start at 6 o'clock, where we'll be answering questions and providing information about the upcoming ballot measure. That concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you. City Attorney's report.
No report tonight, so I will be happy to read the closed session item if you like.
Yes.
Item 14.1, closed session agenda item, conference with real property negotiators pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.8, Gilroy City Code Section 17A8, property is Gilroy Gardens Theme Park at 3050 Hecker Pass Highway. The APNs are given on the agenda. Negotiators are Jimmy Forbes, the City Administrator, and Victoria Valencia, Economic Development Manager. Other party to negotiations, Gilroy Gardens Family Theme Park, LLC. Under negotiations, price and terms of payment for sale or lease. So we should now take public comment, and then when we go into closed session, the first item of business will be a vote whether or not to stay into closed session.
All right, thank you. I don't see any public comments. Okay, closing public comment. And so we'll adjourn. Yeah, 7:50.